Welcome to Business Influencers with TALRadio. My name is Chris Salem, your host. Today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a new social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni not only together from the past, but also people you've never met before. This is a great resource where it's generally authentic, no notifications, and a way to really develop genuine relationships with people that you've known in the past and haven't seen in the past, or perhaps people you never met before. Great place to also possibly land your next job opportunity or perhaps the next business opportunity itself. Check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. We want to welcome all the new listeners to Business Influencers. Our show has been around now for almost 2 months, and we are making a lot of attraction here on TALRadio, and we want to welcome you because without you, we wouldn't be where we are and where we're going. And we are committed to bringing great guests and experts that share their knowledge and wisdom to take you and your business to the next level. Today, we're going to be talking about building your dream network. And we have an expert here, David Roberts. He's the CEO and founder of My Vision Warrior. David has got 45 years of experience in business transformation, 30 years as a corporate VP and partner. He is an author, a speaker, a podcaster, and a coach. And he's a person that has dedicated himself to really understanding how networks are built. How do we nurture those spheres of influence to help scale your business to the next level? And he's involved in, has many network groups of his own, which we'll come to find out more about here during our discussion. And without further ado, we welcome David Roberts to the show. David, how are you doing today?
Hey, Chris, I am. If I were any better, I would be too. I'm having a good time. How about you? I actually had one of my network masterminds today prior to this, just not too long prior to this interview or this discussion. So I'm right in the thick of building community and building networks.
Awesome. Well, I'm so looking forward to today's session about talking about building your dream network. Let's talk a little bit about networks in general. There's a lot of network. I mean, people have been networking for years, right? So, when we had COVID and then everything went virtually, where a lot of these in-person events or networking events went online. Where do you see networking, where it is and where it's going into the future?
So one of the things is people need to really redefine and understand networking. And the thing that's always said when you're building networks, and I said it even back in the corporate world when my networking really consisted of going to, industry events and those kinds of things and kind of networking within a sphere of a particular industry vertical, maybe one that I was targeting or one. And so that's been the traditional way of thinking. When you get into the small business, as I've learned last 16 years with entrepreneurs, small business owners, that kind of thing, the concept of networking, again, a lot of people don't understand the difference between a lot of times building a network and sales, or actually building a client list. And there is overlap, but networking is more than that. It's really developing relationships, investing in your network, whether it's one that you actually build or create, or it's just the people that are connected to you. It's about making an investment that generates a community of people that you know, like, and trust. And more importantly, the return on that investment is they know, like, and trust you. And that's actually a higher level, knowing you as knowing your 30-second pitch or your elevator speech or whatever. Liking you is somebody that they see on some kind of frequency, or they like generally who they see you are. Trusting you is a lot more than that. And that's been, to answer your question about the challenge of today, is I can be in a room. I've been around, as you heard from my bio, for quite a few years in building relationships, building community. I've been in ministry. I've done a lot of different things. And in the last 45 years of transformation. But building a community and building a network in today's environment requires a lot of effort to get to that trust level. I mean, trusting somebody that you see even on a regular frequency on a Zoom is quite different than somebody that you have lunch with once a week or once a month or whatever. Face to face, we tend to align very quickly, and we can kind of sense the energy, the type of person we're dealing with. A lot of people, either because of their limitations in the Zoom space, or just, it could be even technical issues where people, it's hard to read the body language, it's hard to get to know. So there are some challenges, but I can tell you it can and is being done. Got
it. Wow, that's fantastic. I mean, networking. So you talked about trust, and that is one of those things that takes a while to build, and you can break it in just one, a few seconds. It just takes something like that to break that trust. What do you suggest, when you look at trust, because that is so important when you build that sphere of influence, when someone is going to, vet you, someone's going to refer you, especially when that sphere of influence will have strong connections to someone at the top in an organization, or to a really high level person that you could be looking to connect or do business with. Talk about what are some of the things that help to really establish that trust from either the inception and ongoing to nurture that trust over time?
So the answer to that question in my world is really a convergence of what I focus on when I work with individual clients, as well as when I work on building community. And that is, you need to really understand why you're doing what you're doing. You need to understand that you have a life purpose. We all have, as I call it, a unique reason for being here. And it's not the business that you're in. It's not the industry that you're in. You know why you're here. Why did you show up to this Zoom? Why did you come to this room? Why did you reach out to this particular person, right? And then you need to know the unique value that you have historically brought, and be confident in that. Know that you as a person, not just your company, you can know your shtick with your company, but need to know why you show up and why people ultimately find value in you. Those two things really make up your identity. They make up who you are, because if you don't know who you are, how's somebody going to trust you, right? And then the third one is, where are you going? And you need to really be real with that in terms of where you want to go with your business. Where are you going when it comes to building that trust with somebody? Where are you building that and you're going to take this relationship? Or where do you take the relationships that you encounter with people? And coming into the thing with the intention of investing in that network, that community, that person. Because the trust really comes from, if you know I showed up here today to serve you and I invested in that, then eventually, if I do that enough, you're going to know that I'm somebody that not only you can trust, but to me, more importantly, that somebody that I would recommend you. And I don't mean refer. Yeah. Refer is a different thing. That I would recommend you to somebody in my network, which for me, other than my time, is my second most valuable asset. Mm-hmm. Because you can only take people into eternity. The rest of this is just, as I'm a Christian, so I mean, I'm just going to say, the rest of it's wood, hay, and stubble. So it doesn't really matter. What matters is what we're doing here. You and I are getting to know each other. We've gotten to know each other. And that's what I teach to chambers, to groups, to anybody that'll listen, in terms of how to really build a trustworthy communication or community.
I love it. And one of the things I always like to ask, and when we get to the dream part, like what makes that ultimate dream network, trust is a value. It's a core value. And obviously there are more core values. There can be honesty, integrity. There can be family related values. You talk about being a Christian values. There can be a wide variety of different values. Not everybody's going to have the same values verbatim, but we can find how we can connect on shared values. So what is the level of importance of values when it comes to building a dream network, when we're building that rapport, we're building that connection and that credibility? If you could shed some insight, David, on that from your perspective and your experience there.
Yeah, well, so first of all, there's real fundamentals. Number one, the easy answer is it's of ultimate importance. It's the most important thing. Is I have a group called Richardson Plano Networkers. Now we've shortened it to RP Networkers. We meet 3 times a week. The group started with 14 people in a room. We have 1,700 and close to 1,750 members. The people that hang around there are people that ultimately share the values, not just of me, but they gravitate towards the values of the community, if that makes sense. So they come in, not everybody's aligned with me, and they're not generally regularly in the meetings. Some come in, come out, they like it. But your network should have that underpinning value. Integrity is the biggest one for me. And integrity, that to me is one that also aligns with love. And again, love is an easy one, because love, I'm really required. I only have 2 things that I'm supposed to do. One is love God and the other is love people.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter that meet certain requirements, right? But the integrity part, when I look at communities, I look for people that have integrity, that they do what they say they're going to do. Even if they don't show up for every time you get together as a group, but you kind of know when they're going to be there.
Yeah.
And you kind of know when they're going to be there and what they can do. It's clear where they're going. It's clear why they're there. It's clear the value that they provide. It becomes very evident because they show up to serve, and you can kind of see their gifts or their value and their values. They're wearing them on their sleeve. It's not a secret. I mean, people who come up and they try to be very guarded, they aren't authentic, they aren't transparent, and they are inconsistent, then that breeds a lack of trust, and that doesn't get you to that trust, that high integrity. My group is not. It's as I say, it's a not-for-profit but not-for-loss group. So people, they pay $2 a week to participate in any one of 3 meetings, and they just, I don't send out bills, I don't send collections. They know how to pay me. They know if they can pay in person, and they just do it. Yeah. And I don't worry about it. I mean, because for me, that's a value, and that's the way I feel about them, and that's the way the people that are attracted to me, like you said before when you asked the question, is our values are very, very much in alignment. And if they're not, people, the funny thing is, if somebody chooses to short me on a $2 a week thing, they're not going to be around anyway because of the high value I put on integrity. And everybody knows it, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's a great answer. And when you said integrity, I'm number one. That's one of my core values: integrity, honesty, and transparency, authenticity. Yeah. So it's so true. And I value people that have similar values. And then you wonder why, you're able to really get along and you feel comfortable with people. And it is so important. It builds that nucleus, just like it would build a nucleus of a company in terms of how they do things and how they get things done and how they show up to their clients. It's the same thing in a network too. And regardless of what people do, it's that why, that why based on those values. So I love that aspect. So when we're talking about a dream network, so people would probably say, okay, I guess it would depend upon what they do, of course, but again, it could be the why too, right? It's the why, because if I know somebody is really driven by those values, they're more or less, I'm going to feel comfortable. They're going to connect me with people with similar values that I can connect genuinely with. Can you talk about that aspect and how that rolls up into this dream network?
Okay. So part of it is you have to understand one little fundamental, and it will make more sense to you, and that is that I live a version of my ideal day every day. In other words, when I retired from the corporate world and I said, okay, I'm going to stop this process of making money and then making an impact and flip it and say I'm going to make an impact, and if money comes, it's a beautiful thing. What comes along with that is I don't want to invest in my ideal day in communities that, number one, aren't aligned with my reason for being there and my unique value that I can provide. I want to be able to contribute to them. And then I want them to be going not in the same, on the same path, but aligned with me. They're aligned with the journey and I know where they're going and those kinds of things. And so when I'm surrounded by people like that, because again, life is too short to surround yourself with people on an ongoing basis that expire you, because everybody either inspires you or they expire you. There's a balance there, right? and to be in a community or a network, and I don't care whether you're talking about a church network or a service organization or a business networking group or a chamber, I don't care what it is. If you aren't enjoying, I tell people all the time, there's a lot of networking groups around. There's a lot of places to connect. If you aren't thoroughly enjoying the time that you invest, because that's your most valuable asset. Bill Gates can't buy yesterday. If you're not enjoying that time, then life is too short. So that dream network should be spending time or investing your time with a community that aligns with you. That can be very different than you. That's okay, because we all need other people. Life's a team sport, right? So you need that mix, but we're all kind of in alignment. We're moving in a similar direction. You're people. You know when you meet somebody in a networking setting or just on the street, when they're your people, right? I mean, you and I clicked.
Exactly.
We've only known each other for a few days.
Yeah.
And we're having this conversation, and we're going to have another conversation.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have you on my show, and we're going to do, but you know what I'm saying? I could tell Chris Salem is a guy that is my people, is the kind of guy that I don't mind giving part of my most valuable asset to on some kind of frequency.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
It makes total sense. And I agree 100% with everything that you're saying. And it's so important. So when, we live in this world now, David, we have so much noise out there, right? LinkedIn is a wonderful thing. And, you got Facebook, Instagram, you got Clubhouse, you got all these things, but there's a lot of noise. People, all trying to get a hold of you from every direction. And it gets to the point you feel like, you're going to suffocate. So while it's a good thing, it could also be exhausting. So talk about the value of having that network, that sphere of influence, because people are not picking up phones like they used to. They're not checking emails and getting back like they used to. And it's getting to the point where people are not even responding to texts like they used to. So it's like, how are we going to break through that noise to really connect genuinely, to forge relationships, to establish that rapport and build them, and then to do business? Is it through that sphere of influence, that dream network that we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing is, I just had this conversation in the mastermind today. So it's timing is incredible. But the thing is, we are all inundated by those who want to get our attentions to the point where that it's a nightmare. It's not a dream. It's basically, I get 35 connection requests on LinkedIn every day. I'm sure you probably get the same thing. People, hey, let's connect. And then not only that, but then they want to ask you, hey, can we get together? Whatever. So I think when you talk, again, I'm in control. right? This is the world according to me when it comes to building my dream network. And so I want to be able to discern and establish and do those things from the ground up on my terms, not trying to do it on the terms of some networking platform, some networking, whether you're talking all the ones you listed. I'm not going to relist them all again, Clubhouse or what. I'm trying to, everybody is trying to be noticed, and they're trying to do it in a way that those platforms will allow them to do it. And if they, if you do so much of it, then, they want you to pay, and if you get enough attention, they want you to pay more. And if you don't get it, it's all about them, leveraging you. Whereas if you are intentionally building your network on starting with the people you meet face to face, or that you are close in. I'm now focused, closer. I used to deal with global deals working all over the world. And now I'm, trying to be more close from the family out, if you will, and then also to my community, and now globally again with Be Connected, which you're aware of.
Yes.
And so, but the key there is the intention is a very one-to-one. It's like building that network. Almost each one of those connections are very clean, very pure, and very aligned with who I am. So I'm not trying to just get anybody to come in and pay attention. Although my people will, if I'm authentic and I know who I am and why I'm here and where the value I provide and where I'm going, I will attract those people. But I also need to be able to manage those, because my dream network, if I was just in a cacophonous room of noise and I couldn't sort out where my people were, that wouldn't be a dream. That would be a nightmare. Right? So we need to be able to have that control. And that's an interesting balance that starts one relationship at a time.
Yeah.
We've tended to focus on the numbers, right? We tend to say, okay, how many followers, how many connect? I got, 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. Okay, big deal. It's like, but still there's those core connections.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I can relate 100%. Yeah, it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. I mean, some people are impacted. Oh, wow, he or she's got 20,000 followers. They must be really important. I mean, sure, they may be important if 20,000, but it doesn't mean they're going to be the ideal connection if somebody else that has 1,200 people, but they're all 1,200 people that are super solid because that person was very selective and who was in his or her network. So important. And, so, yeah, I mean, we're seeing this, shifting gears here. I mean, you got your platforms that you have, your own personal platforms. You're part of a really up and coming platform, Be Connected. And you're starting to see these types of platforms begin to kind of fill the void that other platforms just are not doing. It's just, there's just, like you said, we talked about that noise out there. And that these are ways to really build these genuine, one-on-one relationships, one at a time, so to speak, and still build groups where there's genuine conversations and people respect each other's space. Can you elaborate on that and what you're seeing there?
So, yeah. So, I mean, there are other platforms that are coming up, and I think a lot of there, I don't want to get into all of the reasons for that.
Yeah.
But it's the way the money is made. I mean, you just follow the money, you follow where, how you monetize or how it's generated. And these other platforms, again, people are, I think because of the pandemic, even though I know some of these came on before the pandemic, but I think a lot of it because of the pandemic, or the zombie apocalypse, as I call it, the people have realized the value that they lost in the face-to-face, in-person networking, and there was that void in being able to accomplish something similar, or in terms of growing and expanding your influence and your impact. And it wasn't just jumping out there into, this big ocean again, trying to help for somebody to find you. It really is. It's a good analogy. It's almost like having somebody find you in the middle of the ocean when they didn't know you were out there, right? I mean, give me a break. So again, like Be Connected, like even Clubhouse, where people, people are getting to know them in an organic way, and it's there's enough interaction there. I think that's the key. So yeah, I see these platforms. I'm not following all of them. I'm just I'm very much focused on leveraging whatever I'm doing. The podcast that I started 3 weeks before the pandemic, so I'm just going to have episode 49 next week. It's all about, for me, it's all about serving my network. I love doing what we're doing right here. I discovered I love it more than I realized, and I want to get people in my community get their story out. There's so many interesting things, but it still gets back to that one-to-one connection, you and I building a relationship, and then I want to introduce you to everybody I know. And there's nothing more powerful, by the way. You talk about noise, and we talk about building business. If I tell somebody they need to meet with Chris Salem, and he's got something to offer and I trust him, that person that I refer is going to be a lot more powerful of a connection for you or for your business than if you're out there saying, "Hey, look at me, see my advertisement, see my video," right? I mean, there's so much less value in that to that one connection. Quality versus quantity, like you said before.
Absolutely. Well, David, this has been wonderful. You have shared so much great insight today about building a dream network. And we're towards the end of the show. And I want to make sure that everybody gets to know you as a genuine, networker, somebody who understands networks, runs his own networks, and comes from integrity. If you could share with the listeners, where they can find you and get to know a little bit more about what you're doing and get involved with you.
So the first thing I'm going to say is connect with me on Be Connected. And if you're not already on Be Connected, it's an invitation only. So Chris, you can invite them. I can invite them. We can, it's free. And I use even somebody that I connect with on LinkedIn, I use Be Connected to kind of triage and to figure out who's really serious about connecting. So that's what I do with my all those thousands of connections I have on those other platforms now, as I say, and even in my personal networking groups. So Be Connected, David Roberts, at My Vision Warrior, at my tagline or my handle on Be Connected is My Vision Warrior. But all you have to do if you register there, and then the other one is my podcast. I interview warriors every week. I don't monetize it at this point. I'm really just trying to help the people in my network. And so you can find Warrior versus Zombie podcast on every podcasting platform, whether it's iHeartRadio or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you name it. It's on there as well as on YouTube. So you can kind of hear what I'm about. And I'm totally interrupt driven. I mean, I run my life by what I call divine appointment. So if you reach out to me on any of those platforms or anywhere or on LinkedIn, I'm on everything. So if you try to find me and you find me and say, let's connect, I'll probably send you to Be Connected to see how serious you are, but that's it.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here. We want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to be with us here at Business Influencers with TALRadio. Thank you, listeners, for joining in each and every week. We promise to bring in guests like David to help you gain further insight and knowledge in helping you scale your personal business, your personal success, as well as your business to the next level. We encourage you to reach out to us here at Chris@ChristopherSalem.com. We'd be more than happy to share any insights from David personally back to you if you have any questions. And if you have any questions related to any planning for your business in 2022, feel free to reach out to us here at Chris@ChristopherSalem.com. Till then, we'll see you next week and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.